Hello everyone, I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com here to talk about WWE Monday Night Raw and NXT 2.0. My usual co-host John Clark unable to be here today. Scheduling conflicts, so it's just me, but we have plenty to talk about, so we will be just fine. Hope you all are doing well on this fine Wednesday evening. Times are good. Raw was good. Raw was the continuation of this new era with Triple H being in charge, and that's been a lot of fun so far. And that definitely continued with a very fun show on Monday. And before I even talk about the show, it's worth pointing out that Raw this week with a good show, with some excitement coming out of SummerSlam for Raw, especially Raw drew its highest viewership number in more than 2 years. Just think about that for a second. Like, how crazy is that? Raw drew its highest viewership number in 2 years. This was just the second episode of Raw with Triple H at the helm, essentially, since Vince McMahon retired. It's just crazy, right? I guess the exact number was 2.230 million, whereas usually it averaged, roughly higher 1 millions, maybe get around 2 million, but this was a definite improvement. And like, that's really cool. Obviously part of the narrative here for a while. I'll say the past several years, even going back, if you go back to 2020, those 2 years, like even then the numbers weren't great. But now having this very clear improvement is very encouraging. And now, that's been reflected in some things that we saw on Monday with Triple H being in charge, changes in the air. Now, we did talk about SummerSlam, so if you missed that, I don't want to spend too much time talking about SummerSlam, because we did spend a good amount of time talking about that on the SummerSlam post show. Make sure to check that out in the archives. But we're here to talk about Raw right after SummerSlam, 2 days after. To kind of dealing with a fallout of SummerSlam on the Raw side of things. That definitely included the fact that Becky Lynch got hurt. Becky Lynch suffered a separated shoulder at SummerSlam, and she worked through the rest, really the majority of the match with that separated shoulder. So shout out to her for a very gutsy performance like that. A lot of people during the match itself against Bianca on Saturday noticed her shoulder was kind of jacked up, and as it turns out, separated shoulder. Reportedly, not quite sure exactly how long she'll be out of action. Not quite sure if she'll get surgery yet. Some of these things seem to be a little up in the air. At the very least, it is expected she'll be waiting, or sorry, she'll be out for some period of time. Hopefully, it's not too long, because one of the big changes that we saw at SummerSlam that was kind of confirmed, very much confirmed here on Monday. The man is back. Becky Lynch, big time Bex, the Seth Rollins like heel, for lack of better phrasing. She's seemingly gone, and the man Becky Lynch, the one everyone knows and loves, is back. Again, 2 weeks in, Triple H here being in charge, and he's already really making some pretty big moves here in terms of just people want to cheer Becky Lynch, and he's going to let them cheer Becky Lynch. Like that's all there really is to it. And that just says now she can't get Becky versus Bayley. I mean, whenever Becky does come back, I'm sure that'll be a match that's kind of on the top of the list. Maybe we'll talk about the Bayley aspect of this. Maybe this whole stable thing that we're seeing here with Bayley, with Dakota Kai, with Io Sky. Maybe this will lead into, depending how long Becky's out, maybe that's the WrestleMania match. Maybe if the timeline shakes out the right way, we can get that at WrestleMania a little further down the line there. I mean, that's already several months away at this point, so I hope she's not out that long. Steven says that Becky could come back at Royal Rumble. I've been saying that as well. And again, it's just unclear right now how long she'll be out. Separated shoulders are pretty tricky. They can be a couple weeks, can be a couple months. If it's a really severe case, it can be a while. And whereas this one right now, it's still up in the air at this point. A lot of question marks about how severe it is. But it is expected to be out for a while. As part of this here, she got attacked on Monday by Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and and Bayley, of course, and Bayley. And obviously they're this new faction, this new exciting group here on Raw. They showed up SummerSlam, lit the world on fire. Like, everyone's very, myself included, was very excited here. Triple H swinging for the fences, bringing Dakota Kai back to the company, keeping Io Shirai, whereas like she'd be leaving. And now Bayley had been hurt, and so now putting the three of them together, three world-class talents, put them together, very exciting. And on Monday, we got Bianca Belair versus Io Sky / Io Shirai, two of the most remarkable performers in the women's division, I would say, in NXT history. For again, it's the 2 weeks of Triple H, he's putting that on Raw, he's giving it time. All good things. I thought that was very exciting as well. Derek points out that Triple H is giving the wrestlers a little bit more freedom on the microphone and in the ring, and I will pile on that and say, and on commentary. We're already hearing Michael Cole. We had spicy Michael Cole at SummerSlam. Booker T on his podcast, I was listening earlier today. He was saying that even as a guest, he felt more freedom when he was talking on commentary on Monday night. Little tangent. Booker T was on commentary on Raw on Monday for the U.S. For the United States Championship contender match. Talk about that as well. But no, we definitely had a real, coming out party here for Dakota, Bayley, and Io Sky here. Io, even though she did not beat Bianca Belair, still put in a great performance there. The match got time. We also had Asuka and Alexa Bliss come down and brawl with them. Now, part of this, and I mentioned the Raw numbers earlier, I do think, I'm not trying to be skeptical, I do think part of the hook for Raw, maybe part of the bump for the numbers on Monday, another fun part of this, there's so much going on Monday, even before Raw, I think it was the late afternoon for me, it was pretty quick. It was Becky officially reportedly got hurt, and then that got confirmed on Raw, and then reportedly, Sasha Banks and Naomi reportedly have agreed to come back to the company. That's a huge news piece as well. I think part of the bump for the Raw viewership was people really thinking, because again, I think the report had mentioned they could return as soon as Monday night. So I think part of the hook there was like, oh, are they going to return? So then we had this brawl with Io, Bayley, Dakota, and then Alexa Bliss and Asuka got involved, and they're brawling. And for a little second, I myself was like, oh, well, we're going to see another tag team come out here. Because again, now with Becky Lynch being out, Bianca's going to need some friends. Or you could have Sasha Banks reunite with Bayley. Obviously, a ton of history there. Or they could be their own kind of independent duo there in the mix of things. I mean, overnight, Raw's Women's Division is on fire. It's gained a lot of depth, and I talked about on SummerSlam post show. But this is pretty much what we've been. I myself, I know, I've been hoping for so long, just for somebody, or for when Vince was in charge, hoping he would lean more on NXT, on all the depth they had there, so much talent, and at times he did, but then it was very kind of sparsely. He picked someone here and there, brings Gunther up, brings Pete Dunne up, names him Butch. Still don't love that. Maybe Triple H will change that somehow. But to have such a sudden, one big move like this with Dakota, Bayley, and Io, and Triple H even said in a tweet after SummerSlam, or I think it was even during, of that moment of their return, he said, "We're just getting started." Now that's a general statement, but still very exciting here. So I wanted to lump this all together, and obviously, big part of that we didn't see on Raw, but part of the equation here, possibly, is Sasha Banks and Naomi coming back here. I think that's a big win for WWE. It's a big win for Sasha and Naomi. They left under a different regime. They weren't happy with the way things are going. Now there's a new guy in charge of creative and new leaders of the company itself, and they're more open to playing ball and what they're more on board with the vision. Whatever the case may be, the fact that they are reportedly willing to come back I think that's only a good thing for the women's division. The two very, very talented performers, and that's a win. National Wonders, could we see them come back with the tag titles? I mean, they were stripped of the tag titles, and under Vince McMahon's regime. Fair, that's a fair distinction. But they were stripped of the titles. They announced it on SmackDown. It would be pretty jarring to have them come back with the titles that they reportedly left on John Laurinaitis' desk. And I think WWE even said that in their own statement. So there'd be some logical loopholes of if they came back with the titles because they left them on his desk and they got stripped of the titles. I do hope this means that we'll have women's tag titles, maybe, or if they do come back, that they're actually utilized properly, and I'm hopeful about that with Triple H and the new team being in charge now. I think that's fair. But that could be another thing here. I mean, just kind of lump it together. Becky Lynch being a babyface again. Now you have potentially the situation with Sasha Banks and Naomi. I'll put in a third part of it. Edge coming back at SummerSlam. They cut a promo on Monday, basically saying that he's been an asshole to the fans. He's apologized for that, and he had his classic theme song back. The theme song we all know and love, that we were all so very upset about when they took it away. Now it's back. And I tweeted about this on Monday. It feels like Triple H has the Infinity Gauntlet from Infinity War or Endgame specifically, And the second he took over, he did the Tony Stark snap, and now he's righting the wrongs, or at the very least, kind of undoing some of the things that Vince McMahon was doing, or especially to kind of put a frame on it. Specifically, in the last couple months, Edge's theme song, Edge being a heel, Becky Lynch, that heel turn called a year ago. Sasha Naomi, another thing as well, not to say that it was Vince's fault, but they were not on board the creative. Vince retires, and Vince McMahon retires. Now he's no longer in charge of creative. So indirectly, if that does come to light, if that situation does happen, that's another kind of a win for Triple H in terms of kind of undoing that. If you haven't checked out already, definitely check out Triple H's appearance on Impulsive, Logan Paul's podcast. I would not expect myself to plug Logan Paul's podcast, but I had to listen to it for work. It was an hour long, actually maybe over an hour. Very insightful stuff. Some was just fun with Triple H, kind of looking back on his career. Plenty of it was substantial conversation about Triple H's views on where WWE is going, where it is now. His thoughts on Logan Paul. He had always said he had no idea who Logan Paul was when he first heard that he'd be coming into WWE. And he explained that Logan Paul earned respect. A little tangent there, but definitely check that out. Because Logan Paul is now with WWE, picked up that big win at SummerSlam. He appeared on Raw and confirmed his multi-year deal. And we're not quite sure when we'll next see him, but he's going to be part of the roster, at least as in a part-time way moving forward. But wanted to mention that as well. That's another big Triple H thing. You can tell that he's kind of been pretty well. He has been hands-on with talent, like kind of acquisition recruitment, and you can tell he's been pretty focused on that, especially as it relates to a guy like Logan Paul. So overall here, just all this is to say, lots of good stuff. And this is even all of it. These are some of the big things that I was excited about for Raw. One of them for me, absolutely thrilled. Ciampa, formerly known as Tommaso Ciampa, is getting the spotlight on Raw. Reportedly, a couple hours before the show on Monday, Sean Ross Sapp, Fight Select reported they were having conversations to enhance Ciampa's presentation. And that would be his theme song potentially. That would be the matches that he's in. That would be giving him matches where he could showcase himself a little bit more. Whereas he's been on Raw at first very sporadically, very sparsely, attacking people here and there, losing matches that they didn't really do anything for him. Now Triple H in charge. Obviously, Ciampa being one of the faces of Triple H's Black and Gold era. So now there's definitely a connection there, at least on the outside perspective. So the first night, it's second week of Triple H being in charge here for Raw, Ciampa earns a U.S. title shot, which is huge. Ciampa gets a title shot. 1 week ago, he cut this great Raw Talk promo, really about The Miz, less so about himself. This time on Raw Talk, gets a promo about how all he needed was an opportunity, and that'll be next week. We challenged him Bobby Lashley because on Raw, we had 2 triple threat matches, and Ciampa got the win. He pinned AJ Styles. A huge win. Great match, for one. And 2, big win for Ciampa. AJ Styles, former WWE champion. Also worth noting, less rematches on Raw. That's the thing that was one of the worst aspects of the Vince McMahon era in recent years. And also matches with stakes. We had a tag title match in the main event. We had these triple threat matches and the singles match for the U.S. title shot. I can't even remember the other ones off the top of my head, but all that is to say, meaningful matches. Stuff. The stakes are good. Stakes make things feel important, and just it's easier to watch. Like when things matter, I'm more invested, and it's less of a 3-hour slog. So I myself very happy Ciampa won. Now, was she surprised that they let Ciampa win? I mean, I don't know how much weight there is to the Triple H Ciampa thing, but at the very least, that's a pretty clear connection. Again, Ciampa was one of the stars of Triple H in NXT. Now, Ciampa's on Raw. Triple H is in charge of all creative. I mean, I'm not saying I'm connecting the dots, and it's pretty easy to do that. I don't know exactly. Triple H is in charge of creative. Obviously, it's his call, and maybe not saying it's biased, but he has his people, and we saw this SummerSlam with Dakota Kai, Bayley, and Io Shirai coming back as that trio, and I'm sure we'll see that more as well here. Nestor, I definitely agree. On Monday, and I think SummerSlam as well, he's wearing this neon green Miz-like trunks. I'm like, get that off him. Okay, that's not Ciampa. He did one interview, a couple of interviews actually, before SummerSlam. He was talking about his alliance with The Miz, and he was trying to, explain why it makes sense. It still doesn't make sense, okay? I know it's The Miz, and whether it's an interview like that, or an interview on Raw or whatever, of course, like he's saying, oh, Miz gets eyeballed on me, and that's what I want to do. I mean, yeah, but there's still such a weird combination, and not to say that all questionable combinations don't work. Like you can have kind of an odd couple, but they aren't really doing that. They're making it seem like they're supposed to be together, that they're like they almost come across like, oh, why wouldn't they be together? If they lean more into like, no, this is kind of a weird couple, not in a comedic way, more like, I don't know. I don't love how it's been presented. I do hope that this Miz thing for Ciampa will be relatively short-lived. I'm hopeful. He's got a lot of momentum right now. Even this Raw talk, you can tell he's feeling it. The Raw talk promo last week, the Raw talk promo this week, like he's feeling this character. He's really digging it. The match with AJ Styles is very good. Now he's going to face Bobby Lashley next week. That's going to be a banger. Look forward to that one. Now, I'm not trying to work myself into a shoot. Like I already set myself up for SummerSlam. I got very disappointed. I thought with Riddle getting sidelined, they might have a mystery opponent for Seth Rollins. And I thought I gave a suggestion and I thought like, oh, maybe Johnny Gargano will come back. Johnny Gargano will be that opponent and he'll come back and he'll be part of the company now. That didn't happen. Seth Rollins did not have a mystery opponent at SummerSlam. But then now we have, on paper, a pretty clear situation here where next Monday on Raw, it's going to be in Cleveland. Ciampa is going to be challenging for the U.S. title. And you start to see those dominoes. Like it's in Cleveland. Ciampa, obviously, Gargano's former partner, former bitter nemesis on NXT. Like, folks, if I hear like Rebel Heart, Johnny Gargano's theme song, or they do something like that, I might cry tears of joy. Like, it's spoiler alert, it's probably going to happen. I miss that guy so much. I listened to a Starcast panel he did over the weekend talking about NXT, talking about just his journey in wrestling in general, talking about how the panel was called "What's Next," and he still doesn't know. He literally said there are pros and cons, because Nick Khan, Tony Khan at both companies. So he doesn't know his holds. He's still thinking about it. But as a WWE fan and as an AEW fan, it's exciting. It's like he's seemingly giving genuine thought to both. So I don't know if it's likely one or the other. Steven says AEW is also coming to Cleveland. I mean, to be fair, granted the timeline didn't shake out. I think that their Beach Big event in February or maybe late January was in Cleveland. Everybody thought that Johnny would show up there. They didn't, but he was about to have a kid and he was taking time off, and he still hasn't taken time off. He's had a kid. So if he does come back at some point soon, could definitely see him doing great things at WWE or AEW. I'll be happy wherever. I'd be happy, and I'd have concerns either way. In WWE, it's WWE, albeit under Triple H. I would have reason to be more hopeful about that now. In AEW, I would have reason to be hopeful, but also their bloated roster is a concern because as much as I'd like to see him there, it's like how much time would he get? But I digress. I'm not trying to convince myself that's going to happen next week. I'm just saying, hey, it's lining up pretty nicely on paper. It's Cleveland. It's Ciampa. It will be cool. And Steven says it will be cool if Ciampa wins the title. He thinks Lashley will retain. Boy, if Ciampa wins the title, I would be very excited. But also, I'd be excited in the moment, but I would also feel like they should have built him up a little bit more because he's gone from Miz's kind of henchman to a guy that pinned AJ Styles, which is great. But to go from that to the next week winning the title, that's not great. Bobby Lashley's guy they built up a lot. So I would hope that if /1 he wins the title, they'll build him up a little bit more. And yeah, maybe it won't be Johnny Gargano showing up next week. That's just she probably doesn't see Gargano wrestling for a while. I mean, his child was born in February, so it's August now. I don't know where he's at with it. He literally said during that panel I mentioned a minute ago, after the panel he's going to go home and change the diaper. He's in dad mode now, but obviously he still loves wrestling. So I'm hopeful he'll come back. I'm hopeful in a way that he'll come back so that we can see what Triple H's Johnny Gargano would look like, because I have a heck of a lot more confidence in that than Johnny Gargano and Vince McMahon still did. But I'll leave it at that. You mentioned Edge coming back here. So glad. Metallica's Alter Bridge, whatever the classic theme is back. I missed it so much. It's a great theme. It was so wrong for them to take it away from us. And again, Triple H snapping the Infinity Gauntlet. He's back. Edge comes back at SummerSlam. Now he's back with the theme song, and he explains that he's been an asshole. He's coming after Judgment Day, so we're getting that story as well. Interesting to note that later in the show, the end of the show was the Usos versus the Mysterios. And thankfully, we get a tag title switch. I thought that would have been kind of a weird thing to do because, like, come on, it's the Mysterios already had a reign. Like, I thought that they may have like kind of gone for a big main event title switch there or something. They didn't. In the end, a post-match brawl, the Judgment Day comes down, and Edge comes down, and then he accidentally spears Dominic, and then Reyes shoved Dominic in the way, and then the Judgment Day ran away, and Edge ran after them through the crowd. But to me, it was just weird because like it almost seemed like they were kind of teasing that it was on purpose, because like that was the big main event angle. In a way, that was the show closing angle. I was like, to just do that, like you accidentally speared him. I mean, and then they had the medical team checking on Dominic. I don't know if they're writing him off. It was just a spear. You know, I'm not saying if I got speared, yeah, I'd be down for the count. But like, I don't think it merited, you know, the whole medical team checking on him. But hey, if they're writing him off, not saying I'm going to complain. That just did seem weird to me. Steven says the Priest pushed Dominic to get the Edge spear. Maybe, and he suggests maybe that's kind of the beginning of the Dominic heel turn. So, Steven, are you saying that like this is like some kind of manipulation where like he wanted that to happen on purpose and they're going to use that to kind of turn Dominic? I mean, maybe. I mean, again, I'm still not really sold on turning Dominic heel in the first place. I don't know. Again, I'm hopeful about it in Triple H's vision more so than Vince McMahon's. Again, I'm not trying to bury the guy too much. I'm just saying I'm more hopeful now. More hopeful. Being a little more trusting, being a little more optimistic at least. That's how highly I think of Triple H's vision. Based on what we saw in NXT, I was always a big fan of all things Triple H's NXT, or at least the very least of that era, I'll say. So having him in charge, I'm more hopeful now. So at the very least, it's good to have Edge back. Lauren says Dominic heel turn is kind of cringe. I mean, again, he's a kid. He's like what, 23, and like again, this is how sports entertainment, wrestling, whatever you want to call it. It's how it works. You know, you have family stories. You have. I was listening to a Matt Hardy interview. He was talking about his feud with Jeff Hardy. Like we know families can feud, and in real life, they're still families that don't actually hate each other. But I think there is inherently an obstacle there, especially this, like Dominic turning on Ray. It's like that's not feel bad, and I'm curious to see how that storyline unfolds here. Again, I trust Triple H to do it more than I would otherwise, but it's still maybe a little tricky to tell a story in a successful way. Steven says Dominic's 25. Okay, so there you go. He's old in theory. He doesn't look like it though. Okay, I'm not trying to knock the guy. He looks like he's in high school, and he still has. Like, I'm sorry, my 2 cents on it. I don't know. I myself personally have not loved his main roster run. I thought it was cool when he and Ray won the titles, but now we're still going. Lauren says he looks 16. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I still think he'd benefit from going down to NXT. I don't know if they're gonna do that now. This potential injury angle. DJ says Dominic's gonna turn into Hook. No way. Okay, Hook is a cultural phenomenon. Okay, people rallied around Hook. People love Hook. Dominic is only getting buzz on social media because of Rhea Ripley and some of those suggestive pictures and commentary on that. I'm not going to go too deep into that. If you want to go into the bowels of wrestling Twitter and see what's going on there, be my guest. But that Dominic isn't getting over like on his own. It's Rhea Ripley and the whole. If I have to give a little context, a little bit of that Dom, pardon the pun. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go too deep into that. Hook though, like people love Hook. I don't always get it myself. DJ says he means Hook's viciousness. I don't see it. Okay, like you look at Dominic again. He looks like a kid. I'm sorry. He looks like a kid. Hook, at least he's been putting on muscle, and I buy it more. He still looks like a kid too. Hook looks very young. He's got a vibe. Okay, it's about the vibe, and Hook has this vibe like, oh, he'll mess you up. And I can more easily get into that. It's Dominic, I'm like, I don't see it myself. I don't want to bury the guy too much, but no, I don't think he's gonna be the next Hook. Lawrence says that we mean Hook in all caps. Hook, yes. Tony Khan has previously said Hook, it must be spelled in all caps. So that's the official spelling. And Stephen agreeing that WWE should have started Dominic in NXT. I do think that was, dare I say, a misstep. I mean, we're 2 years later now, and like Dominic, even now in interviews, he's like, "Oh, I'm still learning every day I'm out there." I mean, yeah, makes sense, but like it's been 2 years, and like I don't always feel like we've seen all that much progress with him, and that's not great. I'm not trying to knock the guy, but like now we're thinking about him turning heel, being in this featured storyline. It's like, and he's already been in the storyline, but have this heel turn, I don't know. Nestor agrees that Dom should go to NXT, skip steps. I mean, it's never too late. Either it's never too late for him to show meaningful improvement just by being on the main roster, and I'll say it's never too late to have him go down to NXT, have him do an injury angle, shoot the breeze here. Maybe he does an injury angle, and then they put a mask on him or something. I don't know. So you don't know it's him, but we would know. I don't know. I do think that would be beneficial, but also, yeah, with DJ pointing out Taz's hook stat, okay, and with Taz, like, you don't want to mess with Taz. Not to say you would want to mess with Rey Mysterio, but Taz is a badass, and like I would not want to mess with him. So, speaking of the guys that I think were badass, the Street Profits were on Raw here, and these guys very much distraught about their loss at SummerSlam, and Montez Ford wound up losing to Seth Rollins. So these guys are slumping, they're struggling. At SummerSlam, they lost the Usos, and I tweeted about it after the match there. I was like, I think this is their last best chance to beat the Usos and get the titles, because they've lost over and over again. And like at some point, how many times can you lose? Like, you just gotta kind of move on or adapt somehow, and not advocating for them breaking up. They're a great team, but now this is setting up to be a pretty natural parting of ways. They don't necessarily need to turn on each other, but they could just say, hey, it's not working right now. We're going to go do our own thing and leave it at that. Maybe they'll turn. Maybe one of them will turn. Steven says they enjoyed the match there. It was a great match between Seth and Montez. I mean, just by putting Montez in the match against Seth, it's a fresh matchup. Putting Montez, even though he lost in a very, it's winning by losing, right? You're in there with a guy like Seth. You're working with him. You're showing what you can do. Seth, a world-class worker here. So that's a win in and of itself. So, yeah, but they had a promo on Raw Talk as well, and Montez was fired up about this, losing again. He went from very disheartened, and he got fired up. He's like, I don't know what to do anymore. So I think we're in the gears are in motion. We're going to get something happening. I just don't know what. The tag division needs a little more depth here, and I don't know where that's going to come from. Again, I talked about this last week. The NXT tag division isn't loaded right now, so they don't have a team, let alone multiple teams. You can like cherry pick from there and bring them up and see what agreeing. So there's not enough teams to split the profits right now. But the problem is that there's not enough teams, so then there's not enough teams to split them up, and there's not enough teams to have these sort of face legitimate competitors, so they keep running the match back. It's always great, but at some point it's like, too much of a good thing is almost a bad thing. It's like if you love cake, if you have a whole ton of cake, like eventually get kind of tired of it. It's like, hey, it's good cake, but like at some point I want, let's say chocolate cake, at some point you want vanilla or something. I don't know. The Street Profits are great. I'll be sad when they split up. I do think that'd be for the best right now, but they do have a challenge here with not having enough teams. Lauren says never too much cake. I mean, hey, to each their own. But I was just saying that, as good as the matches between those teams are, maybe it's time to kind of shake it up a little bit. DJ, I agree. He says he sees Dawkins being the heel based on popularity. I mean, the story writes itself. He can be jealous of Montez Ford. Everyone always buzzes about Montez Ford. Oh, Montez Ford's in it. I even do it myself. I tweet about it during the Street Profit matches. I'm like, oh, Montez Ford is the featured main eventer. And I indirectly bury Dawkins. I'm like, oh, and there's Dawkins. And then sometimes I try and be like, oh, Dawkins is he's having a good night tonight. And I've been impressed by him lately, but to me there is a pretty clear gap of like, hey, Montez Ford, many of that potential. Dawkins is good too, but like even that just explaining it, that right itself. People can be underestimating Dawkins or kind of ignoring Dawkins in this talk of the breakout potential here. That writes itself. Well, we've seen that kind of story before, but here this has been going on for probably over a year now. Everyone's buzzing on Montez Ford. Eventually, that's got to get to a guy and make him snap. So why not? Why not do that? When that time comes, I don't know if it's going to be right now or anytime soon. But I think that could be a very good story, and hopefully, when that time comes, they will set up more of a more of an in-depth tag event here. So. DJ wonder if they turn Montez Ford heel. Do I see Bianca turning heel? I don't think so. I hope not. I think Bianca could be a good heel at some point, but right now she's on top of the world as a face. right now she has this budding rivalry with Dakota, Bailey, and Io. So I think they should very much keep her as babyface for a I'll say a long time. I think that she's very much babyface, and that's working. If they get stale, they explore that. I think she could be a great heel. I thought last other day it could be an interesting angle if they have Ford turn heel. Maybe part of it is that he feels that he's being held down by Dawkins, and then he could say something like, "Hey, my wife Bianca is doing all this great things. She's a champion. And what am I doing? What do I have to show for it? I've been held down and losing." There's something there. And if they want to go in that direction, there's something interesting in that dynamic of like, Bianca's a champion, she's winning, she's doing great, and Ford, very buzzworthy star here, but not much to really show for right now. So like, there's something there potentially. Lauren says Bianca really is the EST. Bianca's great. I'm looking forward. We had this match with Io Sky on Monday. We could run it back with her and Bailey. Her versus Dakota Kai will be great. Again, but even before this trio, you still had Bianca versus Asuka, Bianca versus Alexa Bliss. Suddenly, the Raw division is almost two stacked, right? It's almost two stacked. And anybody SmackDown, not SmackDown, but it's like, they don't really have as much of these this exciting depth over there. Maybe we'll come around and maybe they'll even scale a little bit. Maybe the draft, the draft should be coming up at some point soon. So looking forward to that. DJ, wow, very polarizing reaction here. You have Raw a 10 out of 10. You have NXT a 5. Well, let's talk about NXT. Talk about Raw. I'll give Raw myself. Admittedly, I didn't catch the whole show myself live. I wound up watching about the last hour or so live. The schedule changed on Monday, so it took a little time to recharge. So I watched the last hour live, and then caught up everything else. And I enjoyed the last hour, and I feel very encouraged by Triple H's version of Raw up to this point. I'll give Raw like a pretty solid 7.5 at this point. Because I don't want to skew it too heavily. Like, oh, it's a 10 for myself always. I'm like, I don't want to, because maybe next week will be better. And then if I give it a 10 now, if next week's a 10 as well, I save 10s for or even 9s for shows that really blow me away. I thought it was a good show that left me feeling very encouraged. So it even says Raw is 7. Nesha commented earlier saying she gave Raw 7 as well. She gave NXT 7 as well. So for NXT, Lauren says NXT lesser than a 6.9. I will say, I mentioned this last week, it's something I'm very, very encouraged about. That didn't really seem to be the case yet. Maybe it's more of a gradual change. Reportedly, with Triple H being back in charge now, we might be seeing somewhat a return to his vision of NXT, the one that I myself know and love, or know and loved past tense back in the day. So I feel encouraged by that. Last night's show, very much still NXT 2.0, at its, I don't want to say at its finest, at its most 2.0 level, and it wasn't, I don't think it was a bad show. I thought it was a pretty fun show. We had three title matches, two advertised, and then one was an open challenge. DJ says the tag title outcome was pretty obvious. So the show opened with a four-way match for the vacant women's tag titles here. Iron Al, Tatum Paxley versus Valentina Feroz and Leon. They're not on NXT enough. I don't even know the names. Sorry for forgetting that, but they impressed me in that match as well. And they faced Toxic Attraction, and of course, Kane Carter and Katana Chance. All these name changes drive me crazy. This was a very good match. This was a show opening match. It reminded me a lot of something you would see on TakeOver. All four teams went out there, stole the show, wrestled their hearts out. Absolutely great match. DJ says the outcome was obvious. Part of me thought maybe they'll do Toxic Attraction again, but there's really no point doing that. They've already been champions 2 times. I have to think that Mandy was a type. Sorry, there you go, DJ. It's US Leon and Valentina Feroz, whatever. They're not on NXT a lot, so some of this talent is not always on NXT. I have a general idea of the name, but sometimes it's slips my mind a little bit. So thank you, DJ. Always keep me in track here. Very good match here, though. Outcome being obvious, yeah. I did not think Tatum and Ivy would win. I did not think Valentina and Yulisa would win. Didn't really think Toxic Attraction would win, but at least they had the track record, so it felt pretty obvious that it would be Katana Chance, Kate Carter, and they did win. They did win. Finally, they've been together for probably over 2 years now, and they've had several shots at the titles. They've never been able to do it. They've faced any number of obstacles. They finally got the titles. So credit to them for their perseverance and for their growth. They've been persevering, working hard, and it pays off here with a big win for them. They were clearly very happy And it's good because, like, again, Triple H kind of doing the Infinity Gauntlet thing. It felt like they're starting to tease a heel turn for them. And now this is very much babyface thing, like, oh, they're friends. They won the title. It's great. Everyone's very happy. So that's very cool for them. I felt like encouraged by the match here, but I want them to build up the teams a little more. Again, they haven't really built up Tatum and Ivy. They haven't really built up Yulisa and Valentina. It did feel like a two-team race here, and both those teams impressed. But like, hopefully going forward here, we'll see those teams get built up a little better, so we can have some title matches and title feuds and like keep it fresh a little bit. Toxic Attraction will have matches, but like sometimes they really build up challengers too much. So hopefully this will be good. I mean, literally 2 weeks ago. Or maybe 3 weeks ago, we had titles in the trash, so this is definitely a step in the right direction here. But yes, Toxic Attraction did not win, and I was going to bring this up a very good segue. Steven bringing up that if Zoe Stark beats Mandy Rose at Heatwave, Toxic Attraction's going main roster. I mean, I said this one, so Zoe earned the title shot. I don't think she's the one that's going to beat Mandy, and in a way, I guess to counter myself, I would say, why not her? Why not? I mean, I think Triple H is pretty high on her. Like, sometimes there are people like Ciampa, Gargano that, like, they're the Triple H's handpicked talent. And I think Zoe Stark was around like when he was still in charge, and I would think that, I mean, she's very talented. So like why not? I don't know. Again, I just feel like they should really kind of build up somebody very strongly, ideally in a fairly long-term story. I was thinking Roxanne Perez, maybe even Cora Jade. Maybe even Nikita Lyons. Some of these options that, like, you can tell they're trying to build up, and I think they should kind of roll with them as the next champion. I do think, and I myself would be very happy to see Toxic Attraction go to the main roster. I think that's been, in a way, overdue for Mandy Rose. Johan says he thinks Mandy's going to retain, so maybe this will happen down the road. Maybe she'll retain now. Maybe she'll get drafted to the main roster in the fall. Maybe, or she'd go up at some point. Who knows, right? At some point in the not too distant future. But I DJ agreeing it's not happening about Zoe winning. I don't think so. I think it'll be a good match. I think it'll be a good kind of reminder of who Zoe Stark is, what she can do. Again, like, I myself, she returned. I didn't really remember her. Like, she'd been out for several months. Even then, when she came back, I had a schedule. She'd been out since Halloween Havoc last year. In wrestling, especially if you watch multiple companies, there's so much every week. It's like, it's hard to remember people when they're not on your TV, whether it's promo, whether it's a match. Like, it's kind of in one eye out the other. Like, if they're not there, they're not there. So when she came back, I myself, I'm like, okay, like I remember her being a person. Like, I don't remember all that much about her specifically, right? So I think this will be the opportunity to build her back up. So I think this will be good for her. I don't think that the man is going to lose. I do think that eventually the Toxic Attraction can and should go up main roster. Although I would caution, now they've got this trio with Dakota, and Bailey. If they call Toxic Attraction, like, that is a little risky. And ideally, I would put them on SmackDown. You have Liv Morgan. That's a ready-made feud there with Morgan and Mandy Rose. That'd be pretty cool. But like in general, that's the thing of having two shows. It's just in general, like, especially if they put them on Raw. If you have two of these trios, it's like they'd almost kind of be competing in a way, which they would be, but like it's almost redundant. I guess it's a redundancy. So if /1 they do get called up, I think that would be. But it'd be good to put them on SmackDown. And I would also say, like, now that we have this new trio, because previously it was easy. Oh, yeah, plug them in on Raw or SmackDown, and it's fine. Now you have another trio. It's like that complicates things. So I do have a little reluctance there, even though they work very well together. And I hope to see Mandy Rose back on the main roster at some point soon. For whoever could be the next champion, the one to dethrone her, Eddie says either Nikita Lyons or Tiffany Stratton. And Tiffany Stratton's interesting. She's a heel right now. She's doing the buff Barbie doll thing or whatever, and it's very much a heel character. And Mandy is very much a heel character. Maybe if it's a multi-person match, potentially. I don't really see the story there myself. I can see like a way to do it, but I think like especially Mandy being this long. I think she became last week like the fourth longest reigning NXT Women's Champion. So like she's become this really powerful champion. I would think that I myself would want like a pretty strong baby face. Whether it's Nikita, I'm rooting for Roxanne. I'm still hoping that's the long-term play here. We're hoping it's Roxanne, but yeah, they have a lot of options there. Nikita feels like someone they're definitely building up. I'm not the biggest fan myself, but there are certain talents here that you can tell that they're getting over with fans for a number of reasons. And with Kira, it's pretty clear they are rolling with her as this kind of featured player on NXT. So maybe it could be her. Maybe it could be. On Tuesday, Mandy defeated Saray in a non-title match, and she attacks her with a chair after the match, almost to the extent of like, are they writing Saray off? I don't know. And then Zoe with the save, just to kind of build up that story for Heatwave. That'll be in 2 weeks now, not next week, but 2 weeks next to Heatwave. So we can look forward to that. And then reportedly, not confirmed yet, we'll have another NXT Live event the same day as AEW All Out. As a fan, that'll be fun. As a person that writes about this stuff, that sounds a little. Well, that sounds like a lot, but you can't have too much wrestling. I'm sure it'll be fun. Always good to have a lot of options. Always good to have a lot of content. That's literally the bread and butter. So I'm not complaining, but in a way, like two big shows on the same day. That's a lot. But looking forward to it. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but that hasn't reported, so we'll see. BJ picking Saray. Maybe this is part of the story here. I mean, Saray is someone that's been very like not even stop and start. Like she's had a pretty inconsistent time in NXT. She went back to Japan for a while. Maybe Triple H being in charge now, and if he's being more involved with NXT, maybe there's something to be said for that. Where his vision, maybe she won't be the anime schoolgirl anymore. I don't know. So it feels like they're setting up something with that story thing. I'll agree there. Is it her dethroning Mandy? I don't know. I don't know if I said that myself because we haven't even seen all that much of what she can do here in NXT. We've seen flashes, but I don't know about that. But that was a non-time match. We did have another title match here. We had 3 title matches I mentioned. We'll run through those. We had the Creed brothers defending against Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo. Good match. Creed brothers are impressive. So the big story. Santos Escobar returned. He stopped Tony from using a crowbar, and he helped the Creeds retain the match here. Retain the titles here. And then that set up later in the show. So Santos walked away with Legado. Legado is back there. They have separated themselves from Tony D'Angelo's family. Now they're back together as their own group. And he called Tony later in the show. We're going to have one final accord, one final meeting between the two next week. Presumably, maybe they'll have a match at Heatwave. If they can, I don't think they can draw it out all the way to the next show. If that isn't September, that's 7 weeks away now. So have to imagine that we might see that match at Heatwave. That could be a very fun thing. Maybe a street fight, maybe some kind of fun stipulation thing to really culminate this feud. I've enjoyed it. It's been a very fun story. I would assume Tony would win because he is the Don of NXT. But I'm a big fan of Santos Escobar. I'm hopeful he'll get called up at some point because I think he's just very, very talented, and I think he could do great things on the roster under Triple H. So I'm hopeful for that. DJ says full-time babyface for Legado. So it's Santos and Legado. So Legado, the group now, is babyface. So that's a big change as well. I think especially Santos seems like he could be a very fun babyface. He's got a very natural charisma. I think Raul and Joaquin Wilde could be a fun tag team. Maybe right now the tag champions are Briggs and Jensen are the UK tag champions. Who has NXT? Oh, the Green Buck. Okay, that could be a fun face versus face kind of thing there. But regardless, Santos and Legado being a face faction, that could be fun. Steven says it could be a 6-man no DQ match. I mean, I myself am more hopeful that they'll settle it once and for all. Don of NXT versus Santos Escobar. Because we've already had that 6-man. Not no DQ, that could make it fun. But have the singles match, some kind of stipulation to blow it off once and for all. Could be a lot of fun. Steven says Santos deserves a push. Heck yeah, he does. Very impressed by him. I remember listening to an interview he did a while ago. He's been in the business for I think over 20 years now. That's crazy. Eddie says maybe they'll do Santos versus Tony Lucic NXT. I mean, again, Santos, he was still in NXT during the Black and Gold era, so maybe he's someone Triple H would want to use on Raw or SmackDown. I think he could do great things there. So, I'm in favor of that. And admittedly, maybe that makes it a little obvious that Tony would win because I don't think he was leaving NXT yet. But that way you add 6 to it. That way you give a little more meaning. So I think that I'd like to see that. If that's the way it goes, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. Otherwise, we mentioned the women's tag title match. That was a men's tag title match. We also had a North American Championship Open Challenge. We had Kamal Hayes with the Open Challenge, and Giovanni Vinci answered the call, starts walking the ring, and then Nathan Frazier runs by him and steals the opportunity because Kamala said the next man to step into the ring, we got the shot. So Nathan Frazier just ran to the ring, sold the match out under from Giovanni. Carmelo is very, very talented. I think that, again, the second that he gets took off the main roster, he's going to do great things. He has charisma, great in the ring. With Triple H in charge, I think he's going to do great, great things whenever he does get called up. Frazier is impressive as well. And I enjoyed seeing what he could do here against a guy like Carmelo Hayes. So a good match. Carmelo wins because Giovanni Vinci interferes. Let's go with a little feud there. So another good for Carmelo Hayes. Not sure what's next for him. We do know that Wesley will be facing his hype man Trick Williams in a rounds match next week. A week of like a boxing match essentially in the context of a wrestling match there. So that can be fun as well. And yeah, I was just want to say, Steve, that could lead to Wesley versus Carmelo. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Wesley, high flyer, Carmelo, the champion who's on a very impressive run here. I would think so. That's like a pretty natural extension, even as a short term thing. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing that. So we had a pretty big main event here. At Dimensions, Carmelo versus Solo Sikoa could be a thing. Well, we had a main event of Solo Sikoa versus Von Wagner. Now, this being the main event, I kind of wondered, like, could this be the swan song for Solo Sikoa? Could we see Von Wagner win, become the new king of the street or whatever, and have that be the way that Solo Sikoa gets written off and goes up to the main roster? Because reportedly, I think I remember hearing that they were at least talking about that potentially. Didn't happen. So at least not that way. So Sikoa won. He did a frog splash to a table. They brawled all over the arena there. And the end, Solo won. DJ said they should do a dumpster match. I mean, they did have Wagner put Solo in the dumpster. This felt like a ball off to me. If they do want to have like one more battle here, I think a dumpster match would be a fun way to do that. But at the same time, like, they've already faced before. They had a couple of brawls here and there. So I think a dumpster match would be fun, but I don't know if I exactly want to see this feud keep going. Because, I mean, Solo Sikoa is rolling right now. If he doesn't get called anytime soon, Steven says if Braun retains, it could be Braun versus Solo Sikoa. I mean, with Triple H being in charge now, I do wonder, who on NXT might be bound to the main roster. Because again, as I said earlier, Vince McMahon, he pick and choose here and there. Okay, I'll call Gunther up. I'll call Pete Dunne up. But like Triple H, I feel more encouraged. We'll see more NXT call-ups, at least as he's like starting out here, that he'd want to kind of reinforce the roster. Maybe he'll wait till the draft. I don't know. But it's more as a general thing. I think a guy like Braun Breaker, maybe he'll called up. I think a guy like Solo Sikoa, maybe. I don't know. I mean, none of these stars we've seen. Mandy Rose, another one as well. Heat Wave, I don't think we're seeing anything too crazy. Unless we see like that lose NXT kind of thing that we were talking about earlier. But I don't know. I like the idea of Braun versus Solo. I do wonder. I mean, if Braun gets called up, I think having him lose to Solo makes a lot of sense. But if they want to call Solo up, I don't think having him lose to Braun makes a lot of sense. So it's interesting. Think about how this could all kind of unfold here. We're gonna have to wait and see how it does. How it all kind of comes together here. Who might get called up, who might not. Because again, none of this is confirmed. I'm just saying, like, with Triple H being in charge, I feel somewhat confident, optimistic that we could see some of these talent get called up. Steven says Braun versus Solo could be fun because it's this clash of second generation wrestlers potentially. That itself, that's an easy written story. And again, two powerhouses, like, say no more. I think it'd be a good match. But I'm more talking maybe some of these the logistical side of like, okay, you're trying to push both. One of them has to lose, and they do it all the time. So I think it's probably a match that they might be building to at some point. I just wonder how that would unfold with potential calls and whatnot. DJ Wonder is about talking called up. I mean, yeah, he mentions Roderick Strong. Yeah, a guy like Roderick Strong could definitely get called up. He's in the kind of the purgatory on NXT right now, or he had been, where it was pretty clear that like he was being featured. He's like Diamond's mentor at this point. He'd still wrestle here and there, but like now Triple H being in charge again, I would imagine he'll get utilized more. But at the same time, like, what could he do on the main roster? I don't know what that would look like. I'm sure they can find a good use for him. He's Roderick Strong. He's great. But, I do wonder what that would look like potentially. Because, again, if you think about people getting called up, you could easily call up a Braun Breaker, a Solo Sikoa. They kind of jump off the page. Like, oh, it's power. Look at that guy. Look at Braun Breaker. He's a tank. Solo Sikoa looks like a beast. Roderick Strong is a great wrestler. I'm sure if he got a chance, like, they would give him some matches like we saw Ciampa on Raw. He got to showcase that. Again, it's different now. Triple H being sort of rather than Vince. I do have that concern, like how he can fit in on the main roster. because the way the cookie is crumbled, whereas he once had the Undisputed Era, he could get called up that way. Those guys are in AEW now. So, he's with Diamond Mine, but now they seem like on the verge of imploding. So I'm not sure exactly what the best path forward for him is, but I'm sure he could do great things in the main roster as well. For NXT, DJ says that Strong and Apollo Crews could be a great match. Yeah, they were setting that up. They had Apollo approach Diamond Mine backstage, and Strong was running late, so Apollo was like, so he said something like, watch your backs. Not everything is what it seems. Kind of teasing that Roderick Strong might be, being a little dishonest. And then after the Creeds won, they announced a commentary that like Roderick Strong tweeted congratulating them or something, and then Apollo said like leave Diamond Mine alone. So they're setting that up somehow. I think that'll be a lot of fun when it does happen. Feels like that's where we're going because both guys are great. So I look forward to that. And Eddie says that Triple H will treat his boy right on the main roster. And again, that's why I've had some hopeful if Johnny Gargano does come back. I think that could be that'll be great. I'd be really happy for that. Roderick Strong. Again, it's hard to know exactly who he might be high on, but people that were around and getting featured in the Black and Gold era. Santos Escobar is one. I know as well Dakota Kai, as we saw her, now she's on the main roster, where she was released previously. People that he's high on and he sees a lot of value in. I think a guy like Roderick Strong is definitely that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this all unfolds here. I think we're in for, even if maybe we don't see a lot of change in NXT itself, as I mentioned earlier, the reported vision of Triple H maybe returning somewhat. Even if not for that, I think we might see some call-ups, we might see some shake-up here and there, and that's very exciting. It's very exciting times. Put a nice pin on it here. I'll give NXT like a 6.5 maybe. It's fine. The Raw change has been pretty like overnight. NXT still feels like NXT 2.0. And I've been the most high on that. But it's an exciting time. And you mentioned we're talking about Triple H behind on. These people on the roster that have been kind of flying on the radar. I got a comment about maybe Dominic Dijakovic could definitely shine here. I think that could be a lot of fun as well. I mean, the guy that hasn't gotten a fair shake here at all since he left NXT. He was featured in Retribution, and now the train wreck. So maybe a guy like him and others that have been kind of flying under the radar here could get a second look under Triple H. And I think that's very exciting as well. DJ says to give Dakota a contract. I mean, I would assume so. They brought her back on a pay-per-view. She's on Raw. She's on the bump today. So I feel like they're kind of full steam ahead there. WWE doesn't always announce contract news. They announced the Logan Paul thing because Logan Paul was not a WWE superstar, and that's a big PR thing. I don't know if they've exactly announced, we signed Dakota Kai, because more of that seems kind of implied, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I would assume so. I would assume she's back in the fold under probably a decent contract. I would imagine maybe a multi-year. I don't know. But just having her come back, I would imagine Triple H would want to keep her in the fold there. So that's my 2 cents on it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'll bring up, DJ says, before we get out of here, the Axiom upset Duke Hudson last night. So Hudson beat him up. He made fun of him for being too short. And he just beat him up. Left him lying. And then Axiom was like, no, I want to prove myself. And then he wound up beating Duke Hudson anyway, even though he got beat up. So going for Axiom. Superheroes are great. I'm more hopeful about the character with Triple H being a little more hands-on with NXT now. I don't know exactly how it's going to unfold. I know NXT has its own team. Triple H in charge of creative. I imagine there's some overlap. Obviously, Triple H would probably influence it. So I trust him, again, more than Vince McMahon's version of this superhero character, whereas that was corny. I think this could actually be a cool superhero, potentially. But another one for him, and another pretty rough loss for Duke Hudson there, but that was another highlight as well. Looking forward to seeing what happens with Axiom here as we continue here on NXT 2.0 here. But we'll find out what happens next. Next week is they go home for the Heatwave special, so we'll be checking that out. We're talking all about that next week, next Wednesday with the Raw NXT post show. So make sure to check that out. We've got some great interviews always coming to you guys. Bill Pritchard recently interviewed Lana, also now known as CJ Petty, but the former Lana. Maybe you can check out what she's up to, her thoughts on her wrestling return. If you're curious about that since the release, check that out. That is up now on my YouTube channel and all the other platforms as well. It's like on Spotify, all that good stuff. I interviewed Kerry Morton today, the son of Ricky Morton. He's doing great things in the NWA. That'll be going up at some point soon, so keep an eye out for that as well. All that stuff and more, always coming at you on all of our platforms. Please do leave a like and subscribe. Now, folks, the world outside is a damn scary place. I think we can all agree on that. But we try to escape all that, come together here to do one thing above all others, my friends, and that is to enjoy wrestling. Thanks for listening, everybody.